Sean here with BaseMint Comics, and I am here with this week's Cornerbox Classics. Did I film this on the exact same day as I filmed my new comic book day pickup, but I threw on a Spider-Man sweater in an effort to make it seem like it was recorded on a different day? Perhaps. Is the now cold tea So Cyclops visor is not lit up going to give it away? It is. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do. We have a busy weekend ahead, so I'm just trying to stay on top of stuff. So here we are. The internet. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Cornerbox Classics. So let's get into it. I did the math. Yeah, I did the math, and oh, that doesn't belong in there. That's what's throwing me off. There are 6 titles. This doesn't belong in there. This was in the stack to get possibly signed at Motor City Comic Con. That's why it's sitting out here. It is not a part of Cornerbox Classics, because that was a book from February 9th, 1982, and these are all books from February 16th, 1982. And let me tell you, when I did the math, these are 6 great comics. I would have spent $4 in 1982 on these. So the price of one comic these days, I would have got these 6. So after that depressing news, let's get into it. Defenders 107 on Death and Dying, released February 16th, 1982, written by J.M. DeMatteis, with pencils by Don David Perlin, inks by a gaggle of folks: Mike Esposito, Chick Stone, Sal Trapini, and Al Milgrom. Letters by Shelley Lefferman, colors by George Roussos. This was the first book that I read out of these, and sometimes I'm going to level with you. I do not take notes because that would make reading my comics seem like homework, and that would suck, and it would immediately defeat any joy that I get out of doing this channel. So no notes. You know, I'm not gonna like sit up blurry-eyed at midnight and take notes on the Defenders. I'm just not going to. Also, this is probably as good as the production quality is ever gonna get. I don't know how to make like quirky thumbnails with like clickbaity titles on them. I don't. So here we are. And if you dig that, I'm your man. And if you're like, I don't ever want to hear about indie books or DC books, I'm your man. I have like built a channel, or am building a channel that is niche upon niche upon niche. It's never going to work. But if you're into this and you want to see if it does work, like, comment, and subscribe right now. So, Defenders 107. Last issue ended with Kyle Richmond dying. My computer in the other room just shut off. Sometimes when I'm thinking about books, I've noticed, like, if I'm thinking, like, in the Wednesday thing, I was talking about Doctor Strange. So I looked over here, and that's because on this side that you don't see, is where, you know, this is all X-Men, this whole side of the room. And one day when I do a tour, you'll get the idea. I stand at what I call a comic book island, and this has long boxes on it and statues, and it's kind of built up. I can lean against it, and it was built because we bought this house. I had a comic book room in my old house. But when we bought this house, it was during the midst of the pandemic, and I missed my pals at the comic book shop, and we would stand around on Wednesdays, chit-chatting, and then more often than not, go out for tacos afterwards. And I missed the hanging out on the couch, so I built this like island thing, and it works good for videos. X-Men stuff kind of in chronological order. And then the other half of the room is the rest of the Marvel Universe. And then my office, where I work from, is Spider-Man and Thor. But that's what it is. And one day I'll do I'll do a tour. So sometimes if I look off into the distance or point, it's because I'm actually looking at the things that I'm talking about or in the general direction. If you're like, why is this dude like, why when he talks about Captain America, like, there's my Avengers. Anyways, Defenders is in here because it's like, these are titles that are somewhat X-Men adjacent. Anyways, Kyle Richmond's dead. So the team is like worried about that, thinking about that, going through that. And all of a sudden this like bad guy pops up out of the ground from, I think, the base that they were in the last issue and blast Valkyrie in the back. And so Valkyrie is now dead. And so Death is following the team. And the team is obviously distraught about it, particularly Hellcat. I mean, everybody's bummed out about it, but she's taken it particularly hard. Like I said. So the crew gathers to pay their respects to their fallen comrades. And like Hawkeye shows up and he kind of gets, you know, 70s, 80s Hawkeye when the Hulk shows up, gets kind of pissed and is like, what's the Hulk doing here? And everybody in the Defenders is like, slow your roll, man. Like, he actually was on a team with Valkyrie. Like, they work together. Mind your business. Which I kind of liked. I love the character of Hawkeye, but he occasionally needs to get, like, kind of put in his place. He gets a little too squirrely. So, Hellcat is then visited by a ghost of Valkyrie. And then it cuts to Karnilla in Asgard working with Enchantress to kind of mess with the Defenders a little bit. So then at the very end of the issue, the ghost that they think that they're talking to, like, kind of gets sucked into Dragon Fang, and she's like, hey gang, I'm not dead. Like, Valkyrie's like, I am not dead. And she gets sucked into to Dragon Fang, the sword, and then at the very end of the issue, it is revealed that Enchantress has Dragon Fang. So I will level with you. I have ups and downs and highs and lows with Defenders. It is an absurdly weird title that I've enjoyed, but is also probably, as far as the Corner Box Classics, part of the reason why I started breaking it up, to be completely honest, into like, oh, I'll do it weekly as opposed to like reading a year's worth of books and then switching over to the next title, was because I'd be chugging along reading 12 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, 12 issues of Fantastic Four, 12 issues of Cap, 12 issues of Iron Man, Marvel Team Up, Marvel 2-in-1. And then I'd get to Defenders and it was like a record scratch. Like, I'd be like, oof, like, can I do my taxes instead? And breaking it up in this makes it much more enjoyable and kind of gives it the ability to do that kind of quirky thing that it does. Okay, so it's not to say that I don't like the book, but tends to be on the lower end of. So if you're like, I'd like to get into some Marvel back issues, and you're not into that type of thing, Defenders ain't it. Up next, the highlight of the week for me, which is no surprise, is Fantastic Four number 242, Tarok the Untamed, released February 16th, 1982, written, penciled, inked, and written, penciled, and inked by John Byrne, with letters by James Novak and colors by Glennis Ween. And this is a fantastic issue. Yeah, I'm glad that I just opened up this. So I bought this in a back issue bin, and it's signed by John Byrne, which is pretty awesome. John Byrne is my favorite penciler. I have X-Men stuff signed by him, but I was very pleasantly surprised to stumble into this back issue and realize that he had signed that. So Tarax is blasting off in outer space and heading his way. It is a post-Christmas New York City as Reed and Sue are taking down the decorations. Thing gets into a snowball fight with some youth, and Johnny and, dude, I am completely blanking on Frankie Ray's name, go to a play to visit some friends, and then all of a sudden they see this wild scene outside where Tarek shows up, so they both flame on, and our heroes are pulled into a fight with Terax, and I absolutely love this panel right here, which is the thing getting smashed by Terax, and I absolutely adore any time that someone does a cutaway of a base. Like if you have a mountain base, like a G.I. Joe thing going on, and you cut that thing in half and show me the insides of it, I will look at that all day. I love it. That is like, I used to draw schematics for my Xavier mansion based off of the X-Men survival guide to the mansion that I have over in that spinner rack, which is why I looked over there when I saw it. So that is the type of stuff that I absolutely love. And so then Terax is taking it to the rest of the team in this double page spread. And I kind of love the panel layout of that because it's kind of going across there. But then at the bottom, the Thing, he, picks himself back up, dusts himself off, and rocks Terax out of that building, through another building, and into another building, which is like, comics don't get better than that. Than John Byrne having two powerhouses smash each other through buildings, and we're going to pretend that there was nobody home in that other building and that the Fantastic Four are going to pay for any repairs. So there is kind of Sue uses her powers to kind of track him down with this, like, trap him in there with this invisibility field. We get one of these great kind of call outs to like other Marvel heroes in there. It's snowy. It snowed here for a few days. Peter's hanging out with Aunt May. All of a sudden his spider sense is going off. Donald Blake turns into Thor. You see Iron Man recognize it. Daredevil recognizes what's going on. I kind of love those moments where like the rest of the heroes kind of get pulled into this battle. And then this is all because Tarek started this whole thing to get their attention because he's like, I've pissed off Galactus and I need your help. So like we get this, bam pow, Fantastic Four versus Terax, and then it ends in your classic superhero, supervillain team up. February 16th, 1982, comics do not get better than a John Byrne punch-up that results in Terax having to team up with the Fantastic Four to stick it to Galactus. That's good stuff. So if you're, find it in a back issue bin somewhere. It's great. Up next, The Invincible Iron Man number 158, titled Moms. February 16th, 1982. It's written by Denny O'Neil. And I'm like, was that the end? Did I miss like the end of the Michelini run? And is this the start of the Denny O'Neil run? Or is this just like one of those issues where Denny O'Neil like did a fill-in issue? We'll find out next month. Pencils are by the fantastic Carmine Infantino. Inks by Dan Green and Al Milgram. Letters by Joseph Rosen. And colors by Bob Sharon. This is a one-and-done Iron Man story that I have some issue with. It's self-contained, which leads me to believe that we're not done with the Michelini run yet, but I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if a writer started off with a one-and-done issue, but it also wouldn't surprise me if this was just a fill-in issue written by Denny O'Neil to kind of test his, mustard. So Tony's flying around in his armor. Some stuff goes wrong with it, so he decides to lock himself in his... He's flying over this, like, area, and his armor goes haywire, so he's like, hey, I'm going to lock myself in my garage, my workshop, whatever, and pound it out. Like, I'm going to get back to my roots and, like, figure out what this problem is. He can't figure out what's going on with it, so he decides to go do some gambling. And then we cut to this kid here, and his mom is waiting on him hand and foot. And you are like led to feel sorry for this mother who's kind of, because she's basically like, I don't want to go to the cave. And so like clearly you're like, okay, this kid is like putting his mom in a cave. And then the kid says, remember when I was a kid, moms, which is clearly where the title comes from. Remember how you used to beat me with a strap when my grades weren't what you thought they should be? Remember how you used to lock me in the closet with my school books and you wouldn't feed me until I'd studied for 8 whole hours? Remember how you forgot that time and didn't let me out for 3 days and I almost died? Remember all that, moms? And she says, yes, I do, Sonny. He says, going to the caves, moms. So clearly this dude is paying his mom back for some abuse he suffered as an adolescent. Cuts to Iron Man doing his gambling, and as he's walking out, this gal mentions about how there was an electrical failure in a jet flying over this particular area. And so when Tony leaves, he's like, that was the same area that I was flying over, and I never even thought like, hey, it's not my armor, it's something out there. So he goes to investigate. Right as this kid is dragging his mom into the cave, hooking her up to a machine, and you realize that she is a psionic. And so he's basically saying that like she sent him away to a university and forced him to kind of become this genius, and now he's messing with her. Like I said, I mean, this is not... so she is obviously affecting the area with her power. And so Iron Man sort of figures this out, goes to attack him, but gets kind of shut down, and like the kid sneaks up on him and clobbers Tony with a rock, dumps him in a hole, and it fills up with water, and his armor's not working because his mom is doing the psionic thing, and he's trying to get her to do it for like at least an hour. So Tony is going to drown in this area. He then swims down, ditches the armor, comes out, winds up fighting this kid, beats the crap out of him, and that's where the issue ends. It's just like Tony stops this kid by fighting him. And earlier in the issue, someone, Tony had been thinking like, oh, am I just guy in a suit, like very, very MCU Iron Man. And so at the end of this issue, he's like, oh, I got out of the suit and I was still able to stop this. So no, I'm not I'm more than a tin suit. And so then the mom looks at him and she's like, Mister, will you do me a favor, please? And then she says, hit him again. And like, she's kind of smiling as she says it, and you're like, oh, she's no longer being tortured. But it sort of feels weird because it's like, I'd feel good that she was rescued and wanting Tony to beat up her son if he was just torturing her because he was an asshole. But she admitted to the fact that she had like tortured this kid and locked him in a closet for 3 days as a child. So I don't feel good about either of these characters in this story. So this was kind of a dud for me. So that was Invincible Iron Man number 158. If that was the start of the Denny O'Neil run, which I've heard good things about, but hopefully it was just a fill-in issue. Up next, Marvel Team Up number 117, Scent and Senses, February 16th, 1982, written by J.M. DeMatteis, pencils by Herb Trimpe, inks by Michael Esposito, letters by Joseph Rosen, and colors by Bob Sharon. Absolutely wonky cover going on here. I don't know what the move was there. The claws look ridiculous. That leg is crazy, but there we are. So it opens up with the usual Wolverine is hunting a deer, and you're like, oh no, he's going to stab the deer. And then it's the usual thing where Wolverine just likes to sneak up and tap the deer just to prove that he can. Wolverine's I will admit. Wolverine is one of those characters that I love when written by Claremont in the 80s. The second he's kind of overpowered in the 90s, and particularly into like the Civil War era of Marvel, I kind of lose interest. But I will say this, I do not really enjoy it, particularly in the 80s when he's written by anyone but Claremont, because he just, like, it just doesn't feel right. So he's being observed by someone and then is met by like a Roman centurion guard. And I was like, what is the deal with like every bad guy having dudes that dress up like Roman centurion guards? I don't understand it. So this army of Roman centurion guards show up. Wolverine fights them. He eventually is overpowered by gas. And then Spider-Man all of a sudden sees some Roman centurion guards coming around. And so he starts to take these guys on, which means he misses a date with Marcy Kane because he's doing his usual Spider-Man thing. He puts a spider tracer on him, follows him. All of a sudden there's a big castle. Wolverine's fighting a guy gladiator style and realizes this dude doesn't want to be there. And then it's obviously revealed it's Professor Power, and that kind of tracks along with the Roman Centurion Guards thing because that was happening a few issues ago. So Peter and Logan wind up fighting through this thing. They're kind of given the, Professor Power kind of gives them the Dark Knight ultimatum, where he's like, I'm going to blow up this prison or I'm going to blow up this town, and you guys have to go save one of them. And Wolverine is like, we're going to save the town. Like, we're going to save the town. And Pete's like, I'm going to go to the prison. You go to the town. And Logan's pissed, and he's obviously showing that, like, these are people too, and they need to be saved. So you have your little Dark Knight moment there. And so they wind up, being able to split up and pull it off as the best as they can. And so basically you then see that Professor Power is like teaching a class of these Roman centurion guards. And then next issue is going to be, we know who is Professor Power and what is he up to. You'll learn all that and more next issue as Spidey and Professor X take on Mentalo and the Fixer. So, as far as Marvel Team Up goes, it was not my favorite issue, but still fun. Up after that is Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man number 66, Electro Will Be Free, released February 16th, 1982. Written by Bill Mantlo, pencils by Ed Hannigan, inks by Jim Mooney, letters by Diana Albers, and colors by Bob Sharon. I really dig this cover. Like all the neon, in the background, all that type of stuff. I dig the neon Epic Illustrated. You get a neon like Al Milgrom sign. Looks pretty fun. You get the Comics Code Authority approved in there as one of the signs. Just a fun cover. So Electro is in jail. He is in kind of a, electricity free thing. Something goes wrong, and as he is able to channel some electricity, winds up killing all the guards that are watching him and escapes and wreaks havoc. Pete is out on a date with Marcy Kane. Actually, he's not on a date with Marcy Kane. He runs into Marcy Kane, and Deb Whitman is out with Biff Rifkin, and is bummed when she sees Pete out with Marcy Kane because she has a thing for Peter. Marcy has been studying with Pete, helping him get his grades up because she's kind of sweet on him. So Electro's off wreaking havoc throughout the city. Pete gets a little handsy with Marcy when they get back to her apartment, which Marcy does not enjoy, kind of scolds him. Pete apologizes, turns on the television while she's fixing up dinner for the two of them. she's kind of feeling bad about snapping on Peter for getting a little handsy. Pete sees the news report on Electro, and then Marcy comes back with their snacks or dinner or whatever, and Pete has split. And so she's kind of pissed off about that and is like, you know what, Pete, screw you. I hope you flunk out of college. Jameson noticed that stuff's going on. He's in a taxi traveling through, sees the electro stuff going on, and hightails it out of there because he's a reporter. Obviously, first and foremost, he's a newsman, so he wants to get the scoop. Spider-Man shows up, swings in, starts fighting Electro, and then Lance Bannon, freelance photographer who has been scooping Pete on all these photog jobs, just happens to be in the crowd with Jameson, and he's like, of course, you're great, you're here, you can take these photos. So Pete, while he's fighting Electro, is pretty pissed off about that because, you know, he's not taking photos. So it is a few pages of the two of them smashing each other up, busting up a movie theater. Electro uses all the electricity from the movie theater, and you can see that they were showing the classic Time Bandits at the theater at that time. Oh, there's an ad for G.I. Joe #1 on the letters page. So Pete winds up taking off and building a suit that is like electricity proof, like it's like a rubber, you know, suit, so he's not getting electrocuted. Jameson thinks that he's dead, so he prints like a newspaper that Spider-Man has died, and then is watching it on the news as Spider-Man shows up in his new rubber suit to defeat Electro. And that's how it goes, and Jameson looks like an idiot because he's printed off a newspaper that Spider-Man dies. So sort of ends with this shot of Pete on top of the building as the old newspapers with Spider-Man dies floating away in the issue. So a fun, like, Electro Spider-Man punch-up, you know, with a lot of the solid supporting cast going on in Spectacular Spider-Man right now. So the final book of February 16th, 1982 is Silver Surfer #1. I'm assuming this is volume 2, Escape to Terror. The script is by Stan Lee, but the plot and the pencils are John Byrne. Inks and colors by Tom Palmer, and letters by the wonderful Rick Parker. I love John Byrne. It's no secret. My Silver Surfer, I have not ever read anything of the first volume of Silver Surfer. I am slowly piecing together a 80s and 90s volume 2, maybe volume 3 if this one shot is considered volume 2. But it's great. It is a really good Silver Surfer story. It is drawn by John Byrne, so that's great. And it does a very good job of giving you a solid introduction and backstory of how the Silver Surfer came to know Galactus. I mean, there is a great splash page of Galactus and Norrin Rad confronting him and then being changed into the Silver Surfer. You get him talking to Shala Ball. You get the kind of introduction of Silver Surfer into our continuity and his introduction to the Fantastic Four and Alicia and how she convinced him to turn against the Surfer, and now he's stuck here with the barrier and can't get through. And so Reed has now it cuts to more present time. Reed has found a way to break through the barrier for a moment. So he gets the Silver Surfer to show up, and he makes it through the barrier, and he is now able to go back to Zenla for the first time since being given the power cosmic by Galactus. So, you know, lots of Silver Surfer surfing the spaceways but beautifully drawn by John Byrne. And then he shows up to Zenla, and it's been destroyed. And he's freaking out about this, rightfully so, then sees a ship from Zenla and realizes that, like, oh man, like, there's camps there, much like refugee camps that I've seen on Earth. And he is confronted by people from Zenla who are like, it's the Silver Surfer, let's get him. And he's trying to figure out what's going on, and he recognizes Shalabal's dad, and he's like, why do you come back here? Like, we all hate you. And it is revealed, much like I would have predicted, that when he betrayed Galactus in the original Galactus trilogy, Galactus immediately was like, well, if I'm not going to eat Earth, I'm going to go to Zenla. And he goes to Zenla and he destroys it, which, you know, makes perfect sense. It's not cool, but it makes perfect sense that if he's betrayed by the Silver Surfer, he'd be like, I'm going to head back to your home planet that I told you I wouldn't destroy as long as you did what you wanted to, you know, what we agreed to. So he goes and destroys the planet. And so the Surfer's pissed off about this and realizes that, then he's like, well, where's Shalabal? And she's been taken by Mephisto. So then it cuts to kind of this flashback of a very weird time period in Fantastic Four, issue number 155, where Doom had found a Latvarian Shalabal lookalike and was going to marry her so that he could get the power cosmic from the Silver Surfer. Comics. So they go through that whole thing. Mephisto's kind of looking at this memory, and Surfer crashes into this area where Shalabal is supposed to be, and she's freaking out because she doesn't recognize him. And then, you know, Mephisto pops up, and the two of them kind of go over all of this that has happened. They battle, and there's this moment where, like, Surfer's trying to fight for Shalabal, and he gets attacked by demons, and it's pretty gnarly. Like, that's like first time I ever saw Ghost, and the dude gets sucked up at the end. Terrifying. Which probably doesn't look terrifying now, but trust me, as a child, why I was watching, my mom must have been watching it, and I saw that, and it messed me up, man. Anyways, so the Surfer fights Mephisto for Shalabal, and her energy is released past the atmosphere. He winds up, you know, back on Earth, but Shalabal, her energy is sent back to Zenla, and she slowly starts to recreate the beautiful Zenla, and he is once again denied her, but now that he's stuck back on Earth, he's like, at least Shalabal has been rescued from Mephisto, and you know, I might never see her again, but at least she's alive, and I'm soaring through Earth. So, you know, super fun. Silver Surfer story. Drawn, I mean, he's fighting Mephisto. That's cool. And you got all of that for $1 back in 1982. This would be half the pages and $7.99 now. What a bummer. Anyways, so all of those were, you know, I mean, let's see. Okay, Defenders was Fantastic Four was great. Iron Man was okay. Marvel Team Up was okay. But Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man, and Silver Surfer were pretty good too. So that's 50% this week out of 6 books for 3 of them to be pretty great. 1 in particular, and 3 to only kind of be meh. That's pretty good. And I mean, I'm yawning behind this because it's getting later and later, and I'm tired. It's been kind of a long week. $4 for all this. What a time to be alive and into comics. So that is this week's Corner Box Classics. Next week's Corner Box Classics is, I believe, 4 titles, and that will close out February of 1982. So we'll be getting into March 1982 pretty soon after that. I don't know if I need to start doing these, like, you know, if there needs to be more content. I don't know. I think I'm averaging about 2 videos a week, which I think is good. I don't really want to be putting a video out a day. That would not be cool. I've got a, you know, life and a job and a wife and a kid. So this is about the schedule that this is going to be on. I don't think it's going to get much more. So yeah, so that is this week's Corner Box Classics. If you are enjoying the new Comic Book Day bike ride hauls and this walk through my collection of Marvel comics as they were released in the Corner Box Classics, please let me know in the comments, and if you could subscribe to help build this little channel, I would greatly appreciate it. So thanks for you know, taking a look at these classics with me, and I will be back probably with a Motor City Comic Con video over this weekend, and then back next week for another new comic book ride. So thanks for watching. Bye.